Singapore is exploring how its young aquaculture sector can benefit from deeper and wider collaboration between the government and industry. It's also looking at the role legislation should play in setting standards and levelling the playing field. Chloe Chu reports from Perth, Australia.
From identifying the right kind of fish to farm, to the standards that keep aquaculture thriving, collaboration appears to be key. For the Singapore Agro-Food Enterprises Federation, that means getting all its 100 member fish farms on board to track how much feed is needed for a healthy fish population.
If all the farms, decides that yes, to start this off, we should all start recording how much we feed, start recording how much fish do we put down, and how much fish do we harvest. I think that is a very quick and a sure step forward. And over time, other capabilities that working with the other stakeholders can be brought on board. Water monitoring, more deliberate planning about kind of fish that you want to grow.
It's a hint at the gargantuan amount of collaboration required to advance Singapore's developing fish farming sector. Something many delegates saw firsthand during a recent study trip with the Singapore Food Agency to Australia.
One thing that is definitely very useful that we learned from Australia is how the synergy between the research industry, the industrial partners, as well as the government come together to identify gaps and turn them into economic and environmental opportunities for research. So I think this is a very important part because it helps to get people coordinated, maximize efficiency, and it basically helps to achieve optimal outcomes.
More than situating industries close to universities and research institutes, he says Singapore needs a very active network to identify gaps in areas to work together and enable the kind of synergy seen in Australia's $2.5 billion industry. A large majority of aquaculture-related initiatives in Australia involve collaboration between the government, schools and local farms. For instance, collecting data to monitor water conditions or restoring ecosystems through the planting of seagrass. It's partnerships like this that have helped grow the industry sustainably and is what Singapore hopes to eventually achieve. But to make all this come together requires standards and legislation. And the Western Australia government says this is very important when it comes to funding support.
So getting the broodstock to spawn, getting viable eggs, growing those eggs through the very small larval stages and up to a fish of about 5 grams, which can then be grown out more easily. That adds up to a fairly high cost. That's where government can really step in to provide capital and operating costs for facilities like that, for their establishment and operation.
Australia says that mandates around production caps and water quality monitoring also help farmers keep to sustainable practices.
We make sure that we've got a lot of regulation focused predominantly on environmental sustainability, and we have different techniques for making sure that the measurements are taken that should be taken, and that the operators who have the aquaculture licenses do undertake the measurements that they're meant to do. Delegates
concur that it's about ensuring clean and efficient operations to keep the products safe for the table and the sector viable in the long run. Chloe Chu, CNA, Perth.